Martha was a little girl. She was upstairs playing in her bedroom with another little girl from the neighborhood. And the little girl looked around Martha's room filled with toys and everything, and she looked at Martha and said, "Martha, you're spoiled." And Martha smiled and said, "Thank you."
This story always somehow keeps resurfacing throughout my life. And while it's a little embarrassing and kind of frames me as a brat, there is some truth to it. I'm just learning how important it is to acknowledge our individual privilege. I've also come to discover that one injustice is often related to another, whether it be racism, poverty, ableism, etc. And being a white, young, well-off female from Canada, I have very little experience or expertise to speak authoritatively about these topics. But with that being said, I believe it's my duty to speak up on behalf of those who may not be able to, in order to initiate conversation and in hopes of bringing change.
I'm not sure that a father and daughter from Saskatchewan have any business being on a TEDx stage. And perhaps, guess that makes us spoiled, but it certainly is our great privilege. And we're very grateful to share a story about passion finding and how creating beautiful work can help change a conversation.
There's a lot of pressure on today's youth to find their passion and change the world. And there's certainly no lacking of social, economic, or climate-related issues that one can pursue. But often, it's a parent, a teacher, or another caring adult that leads you to find yours. When I was 14, my grandparents made me go to a movie called Girl Rising. The documentary focused on the fight for girls' education in third world countries.
Notice how Martha said, "They made me." There's a lot of talk today about personalized learning, and certainly as adults and educators, we need to continue to find opportunities for our students and our kids to pursue their passions and interests. However, one of the great tenets of a K-12 public education is the ability that we have to introduce students and our kids to things that they wouldn't normally choose, whether ideas and experiences, and so giving those opportunities to do that. I think that is one of the great unfair advantages of schools, particularly in an online world that only gives us results based on algorithms on things that we like. It's the human element that can expose us and broaden our horizons in thoughtful and even life-changing ways.
As the movie went on, it was like something clicked in me. And the documentary is what propelled me to look into gender equality, which introduced me to feminism. Throughout my ongoing journey with feminism, I've learned about more than just women's rights, but about communication, the importance of validation, and the art of letting things go. Almost immediately after looking into gender equality, I became passionate about it. But I was hesitant to be super outspoken because of the bad connotations around the word. But the more I researched and educated myself, it was like I'd put on a pair of injustice-colored glasses, and I could not unsee the sexism in the world. Soon, I proudly bore the name of feminist and tried to take a small amount of action. I started a girls' group at my school, hoping to provide a safe place for girls to speak openly about the unique experience about being female. While all I did was start a conversation, I was amazed to see how many girls had never been given the chance to articulate how they felt about the topic of gender. We discussed a range of personal issues from the more trivial to the more emotional. I was amazed to see how many girls could relate to being called bossy when taking leadership in school projects. I was also amazed at how many girls as young as 12 or 13 had already experienced being catcalled. Speaking honestly about our own stories helped us come to the realization that we were not alone, and it also helped us understand the context of bigger issues of sexism faced around the world. Now, there was more conversation than ever about equality in my life, from the girls at my school, to my parents, to my teachers. And while I faced a lot of support, I also faced a lot of opposition. Now, most people agree with the textbook definition of feminism, but its controversy centers around its necessity. When I and many of my friends became passionate about women's rights, there was a lot of backlash from the populace of teenage boys in particular. But the more we became passionate about it, the more we wanted to talk about it. I was so happy to see feminism getting a platform, but I was disheartened by the fact that most of the conversations were ending in hostility and frustration. I couldn't understand why so many people weren't on board with the cause. To me, it was so simple and evidently necessary, and it deeply hurt me that people were not only unsupportive, but didn't even consider my passion to be valid.
I'm not sure there's a single more important skill that very few of our students leave school with, and that's the ability to engage in civil discourse. And I think as adults, we tend to either avoid issues of controversy, not talk about them at all, or we only engage with them in sort of intense emotion and anger. Maybe it's because we too quickly confuse discourse with debate. But again, an online world where we can instantly publish our thoughts, as well as our newfound desire to elevate student voice, I worry that we might be forgetting how important it is to teach our students to listen. All empathy really begins with listening. Empathy does not infer agreement. But unless we are teaching our students to listen and listen well to alternative perspectives and viewpoints, I don't think we're preparing them to live in an increasingly complex and diverse world. At a minimum, we should be exposing our students to these issues and having conversations that are complicated and nuanced. And as adults, we need to be more comfortable with being uncomfortable and being uncertain, and occasionally saying things like, I don't know. I don't know that that's anything that comes naturally to us, but I believe it's something that we can learn, and I know it's something we must teach.
As the dialogue continued, some of which resulted in interesting questions, others even ended in tears, there came an opportunity for me and a friend to create a presentation for our entire 12th grade class. While I was thinking this presentation would educate my classmates about feminism, it ended up teaching me about communication. I wanted this presentation, even more than expressing the importance of equality, to show my classmates how I felt about feminism. I wanted them to know that my passion for equal rights was not just a crusade to make myself feel important, but it was something that tugs at my heart in a way very few things can. I knew my previous tactics were not going to have the effect I needed. In past debates, I've raised my voice, I've ignored people and stayed quiet, I've even ended up crying in frustration, and none of this had made anyone really listen to me. I needed a different approach, one suggested to me by my dad. He said to me, try to make them see the beauty of what you believe in.
As someone who's dabbled a little bit in storytelling and videography, I'm always fascinated by the way in which emotion, through story and imagery, can change a topic from simply heart-tugging to actually challenging our minds. There's a lot of topics out there that are seemingly elusive and even irrelevant to us, but emotions such as beauty and sorrow and justice and struggle are pretty universal kinds of emotions, and they're the ones that can turn us from being disinterested or ignorant to understanding, and all change begins with a basic understanding. Last year, I was fortunate to attend a screening of Racing Extinction, which is a documentary by Louis Cefollos on climate change and the extinction of our planet. And after the documentary, Cefollos was there, and people were asking him about his approach to creating this film. And he readily admitted that his own response to that topic usually resulted in him becoming angry and petulant, and he knew that that would only polarize what is already a fairly polarized debate. So he said, instead, I just decided to focus on the beauty of the animals, the beauty of our planet, to help not only sort of create that emotional connection, but a call to action. I mean, for me, that idea of coupling beauty with challenging questions is the highest form of art. And so when Martha asked me about this project, I said, you just need to tap into your creative ability and your talents to create something really beautiful.
Well, I took his advice to heart, and my friend and I created a video full of illustrations, presented in a spoken word poem, and caked with our emotions. When we finally presented the video to my class, they responded in a way I'd never seen before. The room was silent. It was the sound of our thoughts finally being heard. We all have wounds and scars, and denying yours or someone else's pain does not aid the healing process. There is something powerful about speaking of experiences. Though we may not fully understand the extent of someone's pain, it is not our place to tell them when they are exaggerating or not. We have not walked in anyone's shoes but our own. It is our job to listen, not to belittle someone's story. We need to learn to be architects of encouragement, plotting ways to build strength and love into those we know. Imagine how wonderful it would be to live in a world full of towering pillars. Later on, the video ended up spreading around our school, and comments, all positive, from teachers and kids were being said. We used our creativity to speak about a topic we consider extremely important in a way that was approachable, informative, and powerful. This learning experience taught me many things that will equip me to continue to have meaningful dialogue in a more civil manner. I learned that research is important, and in order to have a valid opinion on something, you have to educate yourself. I learned that everyone's experiences are different, which makes it impossible to fully understand what someone else goes through, which means we don't have the right to tell someone how to feel. And most importantly, I learned that not everyone's going to jump on your bandwagon, and that's okay. Not every cause will resonate the same with everyone, but it's vital that you find at least one that resonates with you.
I think it's worth noting that passion and vocation are different. I don't know if Martha's ever going to find employment through this passion, but that certainly doesn't matter. And I worry that there's a message that our students are hearing that they need to find a job they're passionate about. I think having a job you're passionate about is nice, but it's not necessary. As schools, I would much rather focus on preparing our students to be good citizens. Absolutely, our schools should be doing both, and they're both related. But I think it's about emphasis and what we lead with. And so, for example, instead of asking our students, what do you want to be when you grow up? I think we should ask them, how do you want to live? I think that's a fundamentally different question, and one that better positions them to address not only the future of their life of work, but their future as human beings.
I'm still so early on in my own learning, but I know that I'll continue to see injustice throughout the world. And I don't know where any of this will take me, but I've come to discover a little more empathy, a little more beauty, and a lot more listening will be my guide as I try to change my corner of the world. Thank you.
Thank you.